Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here. Simon Crean, Chair of ALEC, David Galvin, Chair of LIVECorp, representatives from our embassies from the UAE, Iran and China. It is a great pleasure for me to join you at what is an important forum, the 2016 LIVEXforum here in Canberra. One of my key responsibilities as Assistant Minister to the Deputy Prime Minister includes working closely with Barnaby Joyce to ensure that we have a competitive and sustainable live export industry. And certainly one of the first things I did when I was appointed to the role was take the opportunity to join with Simon and have a look at the supply chain, basically from paddock to ship, so that I was as fully informed as I could be about the issues that relate to what is such an important industry. I've been in Parliament since 2001. As has been said, I'm the longest standing member of the House of Reps, along with Nigel Scullion in the Senate. We're the two oldest, or the ones who've been there the most in the Parliament in the National Party. But I'm certainly fully aware of the importance of what this $2 billion industry holds for regional and rural Australia. The employment that it creates, some 10,000 people employed directly and indirectly in the industry, and your work makes a vital contribution to regional Australians, supporting job prospects in towns across many regional areas that would be struggling to find employment to match that if it wasn't occurring. This conference is a great opportunity for me to meet with you and speak directly with many experts from across the industry. It's an industry that most Australians have heard of in passing, unfortunately not always for the right reasons. But the closer I get, the more I am impressed with the great work that you're doing within the industry. As I said, my first opportunity to hear about or to get engaged with the industry came very early in my term when I went to the Northern Territory with Simon and took the opportunity to get around the very impressive Manbuloo station. Also joined by CEO Simon Westaway and with the staff of Manbuloo, a property that's on an amazing scale. When I'm coming from the North Coast, we have a pretty extensive horticulture industry growing and around 30% a year, and you see the size of those farms might be 10 hectares, 20 hectares, and to get on Manbuloo and spend a couple of hours just driving around it was a significant variation in scale. I think that it's vitally important that government supports you in your work, and we saw the advent or the impact of very poor government policy with the cancellation of the trade in response to a television program. An absolutely outrageous piece of poor government policy, not thought through, knee-jerk reaction, and so very damaging to the industry, damaging to the wider economy of the North, an absolute tragedy. But you can be assured that this government is absolutely focused on doing what we can to preserve the trade, to assist you in your work, so that we can continue to help you earn the vital export dollars that are so beneficial to our nation. If I look at 2015-16, under a coalition government, we see that we've got live export trades around $2 billion. You can't argue with a figure like that. A massive increase on what we had seen in the aftermath of Labor's outrageous decision. And I think that the success in the growth of the industry has largely been due in part to the record prices for cattle, but also in part to the way that you've managed the industry and responded to the challenges that are there. Since 2013, we've seen cattle sales through Darwin, for example, up 141% for light heifers to 350 cents a kilo, 121% for light steers to 365 cents a kilo. Common sense says we're likely to see the value of live exports and cattle prices more generally ease this year as competition between restockers and exporters continues to pit production against herd rebuilding, but it still is a really exciting time, still is excellent from the point of view of our nation. But even as exports and prices continue to lower slightly, the relative performance of your industry remains very strong. That performance is a natural reflection of market forces at work. Your selling of a premium product reflects premium prices that are in great demand for that product. It's also a direct reflection of the way that you conduct your industry and the responsibility with which you have taken that industry and the exporting. And certainly it's a great reflection on you. For many years now, Australia has been at the forefront of improving animal husbandry practices in our region. The use of stunning prior to slaughter is now the practice in almost 90% of cases in Indonesia, for example. And this has come about through active and respectful trade diplomacy. It's also a direct result of the investment in your industry that you have made with regards to supply chain assurance. Through SCAS, we know that there are more than 1,000 facilities across 20 countries that now have standards that meet the World Organisation for Animal Health recommendations for animal welfare. The Australian livestock industry has also trained more than 9,000 people in overseas markets in better animal handling and slaughter practices. When SCAS was introduced, the RSPCA told a Senate inquiry that proof of the new system and whether it works would take between 6 months and 2 years to establish. That proof is now in, and there is no better example than the exports during the recent Eid festival. In 2015, the number of sheep found outside supply chains during Eid was around 12,300, or 0.8% of the 1.6 million exported to Eid markets. Reports for Eid in 2016 indicate around 4,000 sheep were seen outside approved supply chains, or 0.3% of the 1.3 million animals exported to those Eid markets. So in the space of 1 year, you've been able to more than halve the number of animals reported as potentially at risk in one of the most complex markets that we serve. In an industry that is rarely recognised for its successes and works under a constant spotlight, the proactive work that you have done in the markets is delivering those very impressive results. These improvements have been delivered because exporters and their industry bodies have strong working relationships with their customers and have provided pre-Eid training to staff at facilities selling and slaughtering Australian livestock. During Eid, exporters and industry consultants rolled up their sleeves, put boots on the ground in local markets to oversee and manage the sales system. You put on additional staff and security. You limited sheep sales to specific facilities, reducing public access to live animals, and you trialled apps and call centres and even home delivery. And of course, the introduction of the Mecca model ticket system, selling and delivering carcasses instead of live animals, has become increasingly popular. In short, you set out to address any handling problems on the ground, in person, immediately, and because of this, you've seen very strong improvements. This is a record that you can be truly proud of, and I hope to see the trends that you have established continue. Simon Crean has spearheaded this approach with a preemptive and proactive approach both in market and in the media. I have great respect for that work, and it is clearly paying dividends. And while there is still work to be done in markets like Vietnam, it's clear in the SCAS system that we've got the right model in place. Of course, there are challenges, not the least rising global competition for international markets that we serve. So the focus of this government is to ensure that you are well placed to meet those challenges and that you are free to compete with the best that the world has to offer on your merits. That means improving market access, cutting red tape wherever possible, and revitalising infrastructure. We've so far opened new or improved market access for 10 livestock export markets: China, Bahrain, Egypt, Iran, Cambodia, Thailand, the Philippines, the United States, Mexico and Lebanon. And in each market, SCAS underpins our trade. But it comes with a high regulatory burden, estimated last year at around 17.6 million each year to government and industry. That's why the Australian government is consistently working to cut red tape in the livestock export trade, to deliver better animal welfare outcomes, while also allowing Australia to remain a competitive supplier of high quality livestock to our trading partners. In 2014, we put in place reforms that streamline the process for SCAS approval. In 2015, we moved to a risk-based approach to determine the frequency of audits for SCAS, reducing the costs of SCAS on compliant exporters and their supply chain partners, and slashing audit costs by almost $2 million. And this year, we're implementing approved arrangements to reduce red tape around your export approvals. This cuts the time that the department spends on consignments and therefore your bills by around 45%. Our goal is to deliver practical policies based on common sense, to continually improve the regulatory environment and to establish ever more competitive live export supply chains throughout Australia and across the globe. In short, we're working to ensure that you have market access reflecting the international demand for your premium product, and that your businesses remain agile and unburdened by red tape to the maximum extent possible. With those principles in place, the live export trade has a bright future under your guidance. And I wish you all the best for the remainder of your conference and look forward to hearing about the results of your works in the months and years ahead. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen.